Hello, hello, check mic. Hello, test mic. Hello, hello, check mic. Hello, 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 test mic. Test. Hello, hello. Hello, check mic. Hello, 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 test mic. Test. Hello, hello, 1 2. Hello, hello, check mic. Hello, 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 check mic. Hello, hello, test mic. Hello, 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 check mic. Hello, test mic. Test. Hello, 1 2. Hello, hello, check mic. Hello, hello.
Yeah, I think so.
Hello, check mic. Hello, 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 check mic. Hello,
And I think we have to be close to this because this is our own.
I think we will need to use this one. I don't think this works. I tried. That's okay. Hello, hello.
Just we have to sit here. Okay. That streaming is working. Yet that I'm telling him just to zoom in to avoid such an empty room. Yeah, yeah. So we will all sit here because the
Well, you know, it will feel like a really nice conversation amongst the three of us.
yeah, exactly. We can do it
Fire
anywhere. Can be less formal anywhere.
Yes.
Did you hand the cup before? No, first time before. You?
It's my first cup.
Yeah.
I've supported it in the past.
First time. Yeah.
Next year is in Dubai, so we have offices also in Dubai, so we might participate, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm pretty sure. We announced today the platform with Irena, the renewable energy agency. Um, that's for acceleration of energy transition projects. So the Abu Dhabi development fund is involved, Masna is also involved. For sure, we're going to be there because they will want to see what have you actually done with money. This is Sina stress. What's wrong? We can cancel the whole thing. We're already here, so. the live stream is not working, or huh? I don't know. You look. She looks mistaken. Is it? Oh, we are live. Oh, you can see. So you can see us like if we were on the WebEx somewhere. Oh, so you can see me. So maybe we don't see you? No.
I think he will adjust because there is an empty space right now.
What is the answer? having positions that are capital markets,
Yes,
he's around. He was here, but he's not in the room. He was here just before you arrived. Episode is something. I met him I met him actually last week at the Metlife EU 25th anniversary.
actually the chairman of the federation was here when we were outside. He came and we went to Scotti.
Yala. Ala.
It's finished. Finished. Yalla, come on. So that is the second
And
man.
then he's yes, the guy that's in the video. Yes, exactly. It's a very distinct.
So hello everyone. Thank you for coming and attending the session with us today. Oh, really, Stan? Shall I wait? So today we're discussing a very, very important subject, maybe unique and new to the Egyptian insurance market and the Egyptian context, but I think it's very important. On a global level, the insurance industry is one of the most impacted industries when it comes to climate change because it's based on risk. And there is a very important educational information needed for the insurance sector and the market here in Egypt to do so as well, and to mainstream climate information, climate adaptation and mitigation efforts, especially when it comes to climate risk. Understanding the business impact, the profit impact of climate change is very important for the insurance industry. Today, we'll be showcasing successful case studies across the region with the hope that it will benefit the local market as well. Without further ado, let me introduce the speakers and panelists today. We have Nuria Garcia, Metlife, Regional President of EMEA at Metlife, a global provider of life insurance, employee benefits and asset management. We have SwissRe, Veronica, who has been the chairperson and for public sector solutions at SwissRe since 2018. We also have Mr. Ayman Higazi, the chairman and CEO of Allianz companies in Egypt, insurance companies in Egypt, with an extensive experience in the MENA region. I would like to start the panel with a brief introduction by the three companies, our guest panelists, on their work on ESG and sustainability practices.
Okay, I don't know, can you hear me? Okay, it works. So first of all, I want to thank the Insurance Federation of Egypt for inviting us today to a very important discussion. And just to build on what Sina said, we are in Egypt, which is the first time a country in Africa is hosting a COP, very notable, with Africa having amongst the largest protection gaps in the world. And Egypt is no exception. So I hope through our conversation today, we'll touch upon the importance of adaptation and financial inclusion and a very orderly energy transition for in Egypt as well as elsewhere. So Sina, to your question, the insurance industry within SwissRe, we believe can have even a bigger role in building climate resilience. And we think that we can do it in a variety of ways, but whatever we do, the most important thing is that we remember that we have to do three things: help in mitigation, and I'll come to definition, help with adaptation, and we have to take responsibility for our own direct carbon footprints. So as an organization, I think the supporting decarbonization and accelerating the energy transition within Africa and other parts of the world is essential. And that creates investment opportunities for the industry, but it also allows us to have much better, safer returns if we invest smartly in a sustainable way. Secondly, we can, and I'm gladly comment further later, on our own direct footprint. SwissRe as an organization has signed up to net zero by 2050. It's not easy, but it can be done, and we can be done in partnership across the industry and with others. And the third thing is not leaving aside climate, but recognizing that climate and adaptation also have important implications from an ESG perspective to make sure that we are very financially inclusive in the work that we do.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so Metlife is a 154-year-old company and is present in 40 markets. And in EMEA, we are present in 24 markets, and Egypt is one of our largest markets in this part of the world. And we are a live global insurance company. So sustainability and environmental stewardship is been really linked to the history of Metlife over time, and is really very linked to our purpose, which is building a more confident future. So we have a strategy around sustainability, which is very much linked to the United Nations Development Goals, and we have chosen 5 of them because they are close to our business and our purpose. So the 5 goals that we have chosen are climate action, fight inequality, gender equality, well-being and good health. And the last one is decent work and economic growth. And when we look into helping and progressing on those goals, we are really using all our assets, which means that we are using our people, we are using the money that we invest, we are using also our product and solutions to support these goals, and we are, of course, supporting the communities that we operate in. And ESG and sustainability is, a risk that we need to deal with. So when we think about the E, we take very seriously the climate part of the environment. And we have already invested 34 billion in green investments, and we have a commitment to additional 20 billion before 2030. On the social, on the S, we do try to fight all the critical issues in the society. We take very seriously around fighting racial inequality and gender inequality too. And we are also committed $500 million into supporting impact in the society. And of course, also within our employees, we take very seriously gender diversity, inclusion, and equity. And then on the governance part, the Metlife board of Metlife is also very much involved. So they oversee our strategy, they oversee the metrics, they oversee our how we are progressing against our objectives. And it's something that is really also the Metlife executive team, which I am part of. We have shared goals, and we have to go often to the Metlife board to reassure them on the progress we are making on them. So that's kind of my
Thank you, Nuria.
introduction.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dear Ayman?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank, as well as the Insurance Federation of Egypt for organizing and hosting this esteemed panel regarding a very important topic that we are all witnessing and we are all here for. Second thing, I would like also to stress, for me being an Egyptian here in Egypt, I'm really honored that Egypt is hosting the COP for the first time. It's hosting the COP for the first time in history, and I think if this gives a message, it gives a couple of messages for me. The first one is the commitment and awareness of the Egyptian government regarding the climate-related issues, as well its commitment to sort out those issues and be a part of the global player in sorting these issues.
Ayman, sorry to interrupt. Can you raise your voice a little bit?
Okay.
To overcome the noise in the background.
Okay, sorry. The second thing is Egypt is part of Africa, and Africa has its own needs. So having the COP this year in Egypt, in Africa, we believe it's going to focus on the needs of the African nation, especially when it comes to mitigation and adaptation financing. I think this is a very important topic that we hope that to see being tackled during these days, and also we hope to witness, or we expect to witness major advancements all over the net zero initiatives and green finance boosting as well, because the green financing, as mentioned before, is one of the issues that Africa region is suffering from and in need of to boost its infrastructure green projects. Allianz, on the other hand, as one of the leaders in the insurers and the asset management world, acts as a responsible insurer and also maintains sustainability an integral part of its operations and core values. The efforts of Allianz along many years ago has been reflected in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, scoring 89 out of 100 as of September 2022. And this shows the advancements towards the integration of the triple bottom line dimensions, ESG dimensions, into its core operations. So the track record of Allianz regarding the ESG and the environment and climate actions in general, plus its existence in the emerging markets, provides an occasion that Allianz already also can elevate its sustainability leadership, its climate expertise, and material actions on the ground locally and overall. So having said that,
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Having that said, I would like to mention of global initiatives and regional initiatives that Allianz also participated in. So Allianz is not only a preferred partner to the United Nations, but also a co-founder in a couple of alliances. The first one is the UN convened Net Zero Alliance. The second is the UN convened Net Zero Insurance Alliance in 2021. All of this has reflected or has also helped Allianz advance toward an approach that he has implemented regarding its operations worldwide, implementing the ESG into its core operations. So I hope by this introduction I gave you some clarity about the initiatives worldwide at Allianz.
So maybe now I can direct the second question to Nuria. Can you give us insights from the experience of Metlife when it comes to climate change efforts, specifically climate change efforts when it comes to mitigation, adaptation in the developing countries in the region, perhaps Africa and the developing world?
So We have a global strategy, but we also localize. So it's a global strategy, but then we have a local efforts, right? So one of the things that we're doing is working to be able to implement that local approach across the 40 markets that we are operating in Metlife. We have defined what are our 2030 champions, right? So it's really up with our employees that we can make this change across all the markets. So we have 2030 climate change champions that we have in every market. And so by working with them, we are trying to ensure that we create a good balance between the local initiatives that match local needs that will then build upon our objectives that we have committed ourselves against for 2030. So one area to be able to mix at the different countries being a global company is with that approach of the champions. Then when it comes to our investments, as I mentioned before, we have already 34 billion in green investments, and our Metlife investment arm also have a segmented and a local approach. So one example is what we have done in, for example, in Peru. We have made an agreement with the public, with the government, and we have done the first time ever a project with helping to get electricity to the poor communities by investing in solar platforms. And so we have now, these poor communities that can actually charge the mobile care and and also improve and take education opportunities that. The same things that we also use Metlife Foundation to invest also in the more in the places that are suffering more. Also, again, in the markets that we are present. So another example is Mexico, for example. Have partner with a local organization to build water towers, and so that is really supporting the poor communities to be able to access water and also educate the generations on hygiene and water usage. And that also helps us with the engagement of our employees, because the Metlife people from Mexico have been supporting and building those water towers also with our distributors. And coming back to this part of the world, for example, in Egypt, also something that we're doing very strongly, engaging with our employees. We had our Metlife Egypt employees cleaning the Nile. So they have doing that with our distributors, and they collect almost 300 kilos of litter from the Nile, and also helped to build up boats, fishing boats, that will be able to continue to collect those. So we're trying to really manage our global initiatives with local initiatives, and thanks to our Metlife Foundation also helping the most vulnerable communities where we are present.
Excellent. Can I ask Ayman about the local, perhaps regional efforts about climate risk mitigation and adaptation?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to stress also that Allianz has a climate strategy, being a responsible insurer. So there is a strategy that has been in place already since 2005 regarding the climate strategy. And the latest one was approved by the Group Sustainability Board as of 2019. The strategy is definitely changing because due to the rapid advancement on understanding on climate-related topics. However, it has three main pillars. The first pillar is to anticipate the risk of climate changes into the future. And that, and as many as my colleagues has mentioned, and many responsible insurers are doing, we have all low carbon targets. We have committed to net zero world target. So, and this provides actions that we are already taking, like limiting the pool underwriting, not insuring big projects that cause disastrous impacts to the nature. And one of them is, for example, the East African. An example in Africa is the East African crude oil pipeline, which many insurers and reinsurers rejected to insure because of its impact on the global climate. This was the first pillar. Is enable, which is enable the transition towards the net zero targets. And for that, we have also done many initiatives within our guidelines, internal guidelines, in order to encourage the world not to go into this direction. So we have our rules, underwriting rules, all prohibits and limits our underwriting capabilities in coal and related matters. The last one, which is care, which probably what I think the great effort has been done, because once the incident has done, so is there, we need to care for those who are most vulnerable towards the climate-related risks. So for that, we have many initiatives as well. Allianz is a member in the Insurance Development Forum, IDF, and is providing insurance through the Insure Resilience Project global partnership, which is a tripatriate partnership. For example, in Ghana, so it's under the leadership or control of the government of Ghana, UNDP, and IDF. And Allianz and SwissRe and SwissRe is actually providing insurance capacity to this program. The main idea or aim of this program is to provide flood insurance, especially in Ghana to begin with, and the idea and the ambition to export the know-how afterwards to 20 countries in Africa by 2025.
Excellent. Perhaps maybe I'll ask Veronica a different kind of question. We heard about cases, the practices within companies, but what else? What can regulators, community stakeholders play a role in supporting or promoting sustainable insurance and climate-related practices within the insurance sector?
Thank you, Sina. And I just want to build on what Ayman just said. So the industry at its core is feeling, as you said in your opening, the impact of climate change. Yeah. So we have a crucial role societally that only us can perform to the extent that is needed, which is putting a price on the risk of inaction and reflecting the value of every good action by reducing that price proportionally. And so but we can't do this alone, because insurance operates in a system. So if the system has a problem, the system needs to be redesigned. So building on what Ayman just said, SwissRe founded the Insurance Development Forum many years ago. I think today we've done 80% of the projects that come to market. We're on the steering committee for the disaster resilience efforts. We try to mobilize the industry around these principles, and I hope that the colleagues in Egypt will want to be also active partners in that sense. But we can only affect within the insurance value chain the things that we control. So the creation of the Insurance Development Forum, or today, for instance, I announced that SwissRe is a partner in ETAF, which is an energy acceleration platform, together with IRENA, which is the Institution for Renewable Energy Authority globally. We will be together with, de-risking money from the Abu Dhabi Foundation and Masdar and the AIIB. We're mobilizing also fundamentally development banks to put capital towards infrastructure and projects that today, especially in Africa, are not deemed investable. But we believe that there is a gap in understanding the risks. And so if we can address that understanding, and if we can, through appropriate structure at scale, take away some of these risks or put a more correct price on that risk, then we create affordability and we create a pipeline of projects in which insurance companies can invest, and they all have a sustainable infrastructure labeled to it, which means it's also a good investment for the likes of Metlife, that don't have an insurance traditional P&C proposition, but they can be mobilizing their asset management. So I think we need to think in system terms. So when I go back to how do we engage with the public sector, with the public sector, they need to realize three things, and I think they finally have realized that climate change is inescapable, we can't move away, and therefore we need to face up to it. That they today carry over 97% of the cost of adaptation. And if you allow me just a quick definition, because we talked about climate resilience. So there are two levels to it. Mitigation, which is fundamentally changing the boundaries within which the pathways are developed. With mitigation, we're saying we're taking completely the risk out because the emissions are reduced and therefore the temperature don't rise as much as they would have otherwise. And then adaptation is how do we operate within those boundaries? And we have locked in so much need for adaptation that it runs in the trillions. Today, 98% of that is with governments, and they do not have the finances to take care of that. So insurance can be an incredibly important instrument. Already back in 2009, SwissRe designed the economics of climate adaptation together with the London School of Economics and a working group that mobilized on a framework on how do we adapt and how do we make each project produce adaptation dividends. We're 13 years later. We have not succeeded in reducing that adaptation gap. But I'm heartened by the fact that what has happened in these 13 years, it is at last governments around the world are coming up with national adaptation plans. And we see them all over. And connected to those adaptation plans are specific roadmaps. And so I would just invite everyone in the industry not only to be familiar, but to be connected and contribute to these roadmaps, because as we do so, we actually create a much more effective dialogues with those who set the conditions. For adaptation to really happen, we need to adapt building codes, we need to change standards, we need to be able to rebuild or create environmental impact that considers nature in a positive way. And these are all system level interventions, but we're doing it. My team is dedicated to these things. And I believe the industry has to be very proud and owning its space in this adaptation dialogue.
Yes. So maybe a final question for everyone on the panel. What else can we address as insurance sector? How can we educate the community? How can we play a more proactive role in showing awareness or educating the market and the society, not only the market, the society as well, the end user, on the importance of climate resilience and climate change?
Hello. Sorry. Sorry, in your ears. I wanted to say something just to what you were saying, Veronica, because we are, Metlife is in the life, insurance. But it is true that I think the figure that I was given is that in 2019, almost $9 trillion is invested by life insurance companies in the world. So that is a lot of capital that can really, support, long-term sustainability and what you were saying. But it is true that as a life insurance company also, which, what we have to be very mindful of is that we're here to support our customers. And so we have a long-term commitment to our customers, and we have to make sure that where we invest on is giving us, the financial and predictability about how we can then commit to 5, 10, 15, 20 years and be able to pay claims to our customers down there. And to your point, I think that the more we do in terms of making sure that the policies are credible, there is a stability in the regulation, and so that will help us to play and invest for the long term. And that's really an ecosystem that we have to build with the public sector to ensure that we can support with our capital, but we can, of course, always be mindful that we need to limit the risk of not being able to then pay the claims to our customers and fulfill the promises that we have for the individuals. So that's just, I wanted to comment on what you were saying. And in terms of the building awareness, I think that the insurance industry is doing a lot to that point, but it also comes through the engagement of our associates, because we also are big employers. So I think we have also an impact and a role to play in the education with our own associates and how we drive all this within our company. And then, for example, for Metlife, we use also Metlife Foundation to help also, and we have commitments in our 2030 goals to ensure that we are supporting education and awareness of the most vulnerable also communities where they need to understand these challenges too.
Okay, maybe same question to Ayman. Same question, Ayman.
Okay, so A couple of remarks from my side. So first remark is it's a fact actually. The French Insurance Federation have estimated the total claims to be paid for the period from 2020 to 2050 related to climate risks will reach around 143 billion euros for this period, and this represents around 93% increase over the claims paid for the same reason from 1989 to 2019. This represents a major concern for the insurance industry. However, on the other side, it represents major or shows the major impact that many people, the most vulnerable, will be impacted by such claims. So as an insurer, that we cannot do everything alone. We have to collaborate all together.
Yeah.
We compete on business, but when it comes to risks, we all put and work together as peers, as with the regulators, with the civil society, with enterprises. So everyone is actually collaborating on this. So it has to come, or tackling this issue has to come with a wider adaptation strategy rather than each company doing its efforts alone. Otherwise, if each company will start doing its efforts alone, the covers will not be available because no insurer will be able to cover all of this. All the premiums will be very high, so the product itself will be unaffordable to the end users. So I totally believe we all have to work together. All of us work with the regulators as well. I will speak about Egypt actually, since we are in Egypt. Our regulator, our insurance federation, has started doing work many years ago, or a few years ago, in terms of awareness, in terms of establishment or transferring know-how for the climate-related topics into the underwriting by establishing, for example, an actuarial committee. Also encouraging the insurance company to start reporting their sustainability reports in order to start looking at this topic. The training and awareness done by the industry itself is very important and has been promoted by almost every company, especially those linked to the global institute. From our expertise globally about the impact of those risks.
Excellent. Maybe I have something building on this discussion. Something has come up, and I think it's interesting to ask about it from your experience. Inclusive insurance. It's one of the major points that we, as a federation, interested in, or target areas. Inclusive insurance, micro insurance, because it addresses climate justice, and we think it's very important, especially at this phase in Egypt. What is the experiences and your understanding that can be used as guidance for the federation and for the local market to start introducing more diverse products or have a stronger market penetration for insurance, micro and
maybe I'll kick it off. It's not necessarily about climate, but it's an excellent question, Sina. So you asked about awareness, right? And
yes.
I think the reality is that to be balanced in our societies and being inclusive, insurance has a role to play, but it's very much not understood.
Yes.
In fact, I was told, but I'm not Egyptian, that people would rather say inshallah and hope that, good things come than buy insurance because you're bringing bad luck to yourself if you do. So if that's true, I can see the cultural mountain that we need to climb. But let's break it down. So I'm optimistic. One of the most successful, so amongst my portfolio of activities, I was telling Nuria before, I also do financial inclusion innovation around the world. And in Egypt, as in many other countries, there is the regulatory effort and attention to introduce microfinance and to do that at scale, so create the conditions for alternative forms of insurance that are also simpler to administer and more affordable, and take care of the last mile question to become mainstream. I don't want to say it's an Egyptian issue, but certainly Egypt has a reality which is informality in its markets. So I'll give you the example of a program that we launched in 2018. It's called Hemayat Lead, and we did it together with the Women World Banking and the Lead Foundation. And our objective was to reach 1 million women that work in the informal sector. Now, this is a hospital cash because Egypt has national insurance protection, national insurance scheme, so people can go to the hospital. But what we realized is that these micro female entrepreneurs that work in markets actually did not have the time to close their stalls and go and get medical care, and the cost, and then the implication for their families, kids being pulled out of school, or maybe they couldn't support the families that they were staying with, maybe staying with a son or with a daughter. So the product started with a, if you will say, consumer-centric design, and what we designed takes into account what they can afford, takes into account their daily reality, and it worked in collaboration with, as you said, NGOs that are operating on the ground to build on a very fundamental issue that is one of trust. People need to feel comfortable with what they're buying, need to understand it, and they should not be embarrassed saying, I don't understand insurance, which was a very big issue that we learned through the MIAT product. So I think if I abstract from there and I think about climate and what the insurance industry in Egypt can do, we need to be able to offer products that are addressing a cluster of needs. This one is just about healthcare, but we've turned it from a single protection to a whole family protection, so kids can be protected as well. We included things that normally are not included, like maternity covers and special medical care that otherwise is typically excluded from covers. We can do the same for climate. We need to think about how do we protect micro-entrepreneurs for any reason why they may not be able to take food to market, for instance, if they're running stalls. They can be indirectly affected by natural catastrophe. There may be an issue of pollution or heat. This is the silent killer. And Egypt, again, will see heat waves. So product design needs to start from what is it going to hold back this person from having income or from having safety in their life, and building up from there. The second point is affordability. We have to design it in a way that the costs are minimized, and that's where blended finance and the support of NGOs really helps a lot to take products to market in a way that that is still affordable. And I would say the third thing is, as I said, trust, making sure that they understand and it's part of the way they live. So for instance, one of the things I've learned is that insurance can be hugely transformative to micro-entrepreneurs being able to reach financing from banks. So we have to work also with our friends in the banking world to be able to get recognition through insurance of the credit worthiness of these projects. I'll stop it here. But
no, excellent point.
It has to be an holistic approach.
Yes, I totally agree. I think there's a need for, maybe this is a lesson learned that we can transfer to the Egyptian market. There is a need for partnership, stronger partnership with different stakeholders, especially the financial sector. Maybe this is something we can consider. Any more comments before we close the session?
No, for the last point, I think Veronica covered it all. But if I answer the question in a different way, what are the challenges that we are having? So probably these are in Africa and in Egypt, we have the same challenges. So reachability is one of the main issues. So many people that we are targeting through this program that you're mentioning don't have smartphones, don't have access to internet. So reachability is one thing, which refers back to the cost of the product, because you have to reach them through intermediaries, which makes the product very expensive. So this is one thing. Second thing, main issue again in Africa is the lack of data, of credible data to do the proper analysis and try to figure out or read the data in order to anticipate the trends in the future. So availability of data is a bit questionable, and also the awareness. So whenever we come to the awareness of insurance, it's very low. So people prefer to spend or to save in other ways other than in insurance. So tackling these three challenges, which are the main challenges in my view in Africa, I think this cannot be done solely. It has again to be a public-private partnership, assessing the risks, understanding where are the most vulnerable are and what are the crises that they face, and then work together to sort this out. And this is again the example that I've mentioned about the IDF and the resilience partnership, it's exactly like that, tackling flood insurance in Ghana. So it has to be a specific issue that we all work on together.
Excellent. So maybe you have a little bit time to open the floor, please. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sina, and thank for the panelists. I just have a comment and a question. The comment is that within the Insurance Federation of Egypt, we have also established the Microinsurance Committee, and this is actually working on with the microfinance institutions, and this has resulted more than 4.2 million insurance policies in less than 3 years. And this is one thing. The other thing is we have also a Stability Committee that's working actually together with the financial regulator authority in order to apply the sustainable aspects. And we are trying actually within the Sustainability Committee to also understand what's going on around the world from the reinsurance market and the insurance market. We're trying also to understand the multinational players, what they're doing, and we try to give this experience to the local market. My question is, Veronica, you started your presentation with saying that SwissRe has signed with the net zero by the year 2050. I'm not sure if also Metlife and Allianz signed or not. But this is good and bad because actually I'm very pleased to hear this. But in the meantime, I've heard one of the CEOs of a large reinsurance company, he said that what if we signed and we could not be able to commit? Will this put us under a legal situation, or what should we do? I mean, this is also put like some sort of fear on us as a local players and some multinationals as well, that should we join the net zero or should not?
I completely understand the fear of making a commitment that can open the company to liability. I get it. I have lawyers in my company too. But this is the point. We really don't have an option. I actually believe it's a business imperative to do everything we can to deliver the 1.5. I'm here at the COP also as the business representative from SwissRe on the CEO Climate Leader Alliance. This is across sectors, so it's not insurance specific. And it comprises of 125 companies, all of which have officially pledged and committed to being 1.5 degree compliant by 2050. And that means we are also getting our accreditation with the SBTI standards. So these are the standards that independently, and that's your question, right? Independently will assess not only whether we are on the right path, but what are the intermediate steps, because a lot has to happen today in the next 3 to 4 years for us to be able to reach the 2050. And of course, in the middle of a global crisis of energy, food security, wars around the world, natural catastrophes that have been announced even overnight, it's very well understood that we are in a state of emergency, and one may be very preoccupied of doing the things that are under our nose right now. But I will tell you, we will publish today a reaffirmation, 125 companies, that we want to see 1.5 degrees by 2050. Not 1.8, not 2, we want 1.5 because our business, our livelihood, our future strictly depends on that. Now, we don't know how to get to 250 completely, but I will tell you 2-3 things. As SwissRe, we've been carbon neutrals in our operations since 2003. So we've been buying carbon offsetting certificates. You can do it. All of you can do it. My recommendation is that you look for energy sources that are renewable and green. We feed all of our plants, all of our offices with renewable sources since 2020. So that's doable. If in Egypt you can't get renewable energy certified, speak with your governments and tell them, we're very happy to help you invest. We maybe put money behind that. We will call our friends at Metlife and at Allianz and SwissRe. They will come and put money in the investment plans if we develop good plans. But please give us renewable energy as soon as possible. And I'm sure Egypt is already working towards that. I can go on and on. You have to have policies to how do you assist this transition also from an underwriting perspective. Today, many of us have oil and gas and have thermal coal exposure in our book. We made a commitment to decommission this, but we don't do it from the day to the night. I know Allianz would sign up to that. We have given ourselves a 2030 and a 2040, depending if it's OECD or no OECD countries. And this gives these companies the possibility to transition out of highly polluting assets into operations that are more compliant with SBTI. The final thing I will say, I really don't like the idea of saying we're perfect, we sell off investments left and right because this is going to be stranded assets, and we just focus on three things that are clean and immaculate. So as a company, we are committed to work with any oil and gas company in the world that is willing to sign up to be SBTI compliant by 2050. We want 100% of our oil and gas portfolio to come from those companies, and they do exist. So I invite you to look for pathways to what we call the mission possible, the way that you can bring along other parts of society, recognizing that insurance is critical, and as an association, you can make a huge difference. And I'm willing to partner with you to share the international experience in further details.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Any more feedbacks?
I mean, there's nothing we can complete with what Veronica had said, but I would just agree everything with her. We also have the commitment to 2050. We are carbon neutral to 2016, and we are the first US insurance company that got that. But I think that is all about, this ecosystem that we need to build together, and it's really a commitment that we all have. We don't know yet how we will get there. The important is also to work around the milestones, right? So making sure that we have that long-term target, but we also have short-term targets that reassure us on the fact that we're going to be able to make it by 2050. So that's also something that we need to be working on.
Thank you for the great advice. Maybe the main two takeaways from what you're saying is that partnership is very, very important. Also commitment, taking the leap and being brave enough to commit in the first place is very, very important as well. And I would like to say that maybe a couple of days ago, the Egyptian exchange announced the initiation at the very, very initial phases of a carbon market. So perhaps this could also be a beginning for practices that you have mentioned, and we welcome you to support us and the Federation to create the necessary baseline infrastructure so we'd be able to empower local companies for this as well. On this note, on this very, very important note, I'd like to thank everyone that participated with us today, and hope that everyone who attended benefited from what we talked about today. And thank you so much for coming and taking the time. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
It's very tiring, right? Thank you very much. It was good listening to you. Excellent. Thank you. The IDF will be so